and welcome. My name is Elise Gold. Along with my husband Matthew, we founded the Maya Gold Foundation. My first order of business is to offer you our heartfelt thanks. Thank you for showing up. You might have seen a flyer or a newspaper article, or this event might have shown up in your news feed. And while many might have, turned over the page or clicked the other way, you showed up. You said yes, and I just wanted to honor that for you to come out tonight. So yeah, give yourselves a round. The mission of the Maya Gold Foundation is to empower youth to access their inner wisdom and realize their dreams. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about the Maya Gold Foundation. You might be seeing it on the slides. Hopefully you have a program. Do take time to look through it later. It is so evident that we cannot do our work alone. We are thrilled that ASAP, a club here on the SUNY campus, reached out to us to partner with us. I would like to introduce Dan Hollinahan, ASAP's president. He has worked tirelessly along with his fellow members in organizing this evening's event.
Hi, thank you all for being here. ASAP's name reflects the feeling of urgency with which we approach this issue. In dealing with mental health and suicide, there's simply no time to waste. On April 3rd, 2016, 1 year ago yesterday, we lost our friend Tom O'Rourke to suicide. We were shocked by his death and unsure of how to move forward. For many of Tom's friends, suicide just wasn't on the radar. Not once did it cross my mind that this person I spent every day with might be suicidal. I spent a long time feeling guilty about things never said and actions never taken. But I recognize now that I just didn't have the tools necessary to identify mental illness and approach my friend. And that is why we started this organization, to give students a voice and connect them with resources. For many of us, tonight is a culmination of a year's journey. A journey that has often been devastating, yet sometimes beautiful. Tonight, we stand in solidarity with the Maya Gold Foundation, SUNY New Paltz, members of law enforcement, first responders, and Sergeant Kevin Briggs, to begin chipping away the stigma associated with mental illness and having those difficult but necessary conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and other friends from ASAP. The board of the Maya Gold Foundation realizes that in order for us to actualize our mission of empowering youth, we need to listen to them. To that end, we created a teen advisory board, and their statement of purpose is to give youth a voice. I welcome the voice of Anna Alexander, one of our teen advisors, to share a few words with you.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? Yeah. So during our last teen board advisory meeting, we brainstormed a huge list of topics for our community events, just like this one. It felt like we listed every possible topic, issue that could be helpful to learn about. It ranged from time management to nutrition to sexual assault to coping mechanisms. But the topic we all seemed to tiptoe around was suicide, because it's really uncomfortable to talk about. It brings up emotions that no one really wants to acknowledge, and that's why it needs to be talked about. I believe that no one is fully responsible for another person's life except for themselves. But when you form a relationship to a person and love someone, it feels good to know that you can support them and have their back and provide the help and tools that they need when they need it. Maya was and still is my best friend. I've known her my whole entire life. She taught me about honesty, unconditional kindness, and to this day I have never met someone who made me laugh so hard and feel so free. The glow she had was irreplaceable, and she was one of a kind. I was on the phone with Maya the night she took her life. Although I'm not holding myself responsible for not putting the bits and pieces together before it was too late, I can't help but think I want to be better prepared and better educated so that when I'm faced with a similar event, I can help to the best of my abilities. I need help, and I think we all need help, the resources and tools to heal each other. So thank you, Sergeant Kevin Briggs, for bringing us here together tonight.
Beautiful, thank you. I have a few other notes of thanks and then some housekeeping before we hear from Sergeant Briggs. I want to offer deep appreciation to County Executive Mike Heim and his staff, including Ken Cornell, Judy Dadramangian, Amy McCracken, and Dr. Carol Smith for all of their support through publicizing this event, co-sponsoring, and organizing the provider tables. Thanks to the Ulster County Police Chiefs Association for all of your support, and a special shout out to Trooper John Fisher and Captain James Michael. You might be aware that we had another event this afternoon specific to first responders, and it was wonderful. A lot of great dialogue and information there. Thank you to the provider agencies who are giving of themselves and sharing resources at tables out in the lobby. And to our financial sponsors, Dominic Pravacci, financial advisor, and to Ulster Savings Bank. And thank you to our local food providers, Jenkins Lucan Orchards, Walkilby Farms, the Bakery of New Paltz, and also thanks to Starbucks for the coffee. And I hope that that food gets eaten. We don't want to bring it home, so I'm assured that it will because you're college students, many of you here, so please do help yourself. So a wish for tonight's presentation is that it will increase awareness and start some conversations. Through being open and having ongoing dialogue, I have hope that positive change will occur. Conversations can occur this evening during the question and answer session. And by the way, if you're intimidated by asking a question in front of a couple hundred people, you can submit in a text anonymously by putting in that number and then asking a question. So through question and answers, after you leave, you can meander around the tables, continue the conversation on your car rides home and beyond, at the dinner table with friends, etc. Now for my housekeeping. I started off by thanking you for coming out on this rainy evening. Now, I want to be sure that you take care of yourself. With being open comes vulnerability. I know that one well. The topic of suicide can cause discomfort. We have supports in place here. There are some student peers from Oasis and Haven in the back, and there are other compassionate, loving support people who will be in the lobby. So if you get triggered or charged in some way, know that there are people to hold that space for and with you. Please, please take care of yourself. After the program, there will be a few closing comments from Matthew, so please don't run out the door. And now for my introduction. It's challenging to introduce Sergeant Kevin Briggs, as his biography is quite extensive. His years in the military, correctional facilities, trainer of crisis management, and over 2 decades of patrolling the Golden Gate Bridge brought him to us today. I was really blessed to hear him this afternoon, and his pearls are amazing, and especially his gems that just come from the heart. So while he has all of this experience that I shared, my sense is it's not the roles that are the only things that brought him to us today, but it's the core of who he is. And it's a core that saved hundreds of lives and now can touch ours. So please join me in welcoming Kevin Briggs.
You buttered me up pretty good on that. Good with that one. Good evening. Give me 1 second to get my stuff rolling. Okay, let's start. Many of you have been on the Golden Gate Bridge. You walked across it? A couple. It's really cool. We took this in the summer. I was just not going there in the summer months, June, July, August, because it's really foggy and cold. Just a couple of miles north, it'll be 80, 90 degrees. A lot of microclimates. But it gets pretty nasty down there. But it's a wonderful place to work. I absolutely loved it. I was there both as an officer and a supervisor. And I meet people from all around the world every day. It's really neat. I was blessed to be working down there. Unfortunately, it also has a dark side. If you can see this teenager here, this young woman, we sit over the rail, over the short pedestrian rail. We were very lucky with this young woman because most of the time with teenagers, we don't get a chance to speak with them. They come right up and they're intent on what they're doing, whoosh, right over the rail, and we lose them. So we were very, very lucky to get a chance to speak with this young woman. Whatever is going on in their lives, in your lives, they think that that's the end of the world. Whether it's being bullied, poor grades, be worried about your parents, whatever it is, didn't make a team, they think that's it, and there's nothing else. But with this young woman, we were able to talk to her. I took this photo shortly before I retired in November of 2013, and the officer did a great job. We've learned a tremendous amount since I started with the Highway Patrol. When I first started working on the bridge, I had no training, none whatsoever. Very much a disservice to me and to that individual over the rail. I never lost one in the first few years or so. And I think it's because a lot of them had empathy for me. This guy, he's scared to death. He doesn't know what he's doing. It was some years later before I finally had CIT, crisis intervention training, and then some years later where I was one of the very few and lucky ones to go to the FBI crisis negotiation school. It was simply wonderful. So what I have found that works is we're in uniform. Everybody sees that. We know what we are. I approach these folks and stay a little bit farther back and just, hi, I'm Kevin. Can I come up and talk with you for a bit? That's it. It's not rushing up there. I'm Sergeant Kevin Richard Briggs with the Highway Patrol. Who cares? Hi, I'm Kevin. Can I come up and talk with you for a bit? I want to empower them. Let them make the choice. So many folks are suffering for so long that for a law enforcement officer to give them a choice, it's like, wow, that's out of the blue. When they allow me to, what I would like to do is to get up near them and get below them. It's easy for me to stand by that rail and look down and talk to them. It's a hell of a lot more comfortable than going down on the old knees. But for me to get below them looking down at me, very empowering for these folks. That's how I try to work it if at all possible. And it really sets it in motion for a good turnaround with this. So with this young woman, we were there 20 minutes, half an hour or so, and she did come back over the rail. And then we take them to a local hospital where they can get some help. The big thing with this is connection. And a big thing with me is no ego. Egos have no place in this type of environment. With this, what my focus now is to get the folks down here at this level. I call that like stage 4 cancer. Very difficult to deal with. We start talking now amongst us, and it's a whole lot easier to get help. I had a commander shortly before I retired, new to the Marin area, and that's where I'm at. You have Marin County and San Francisco County, and the Golden Gate Bridge connects it. So I'm out of the Marin area. A new commander, he's in charge of the Marin area, and he was new to the Marin area. So I worked 12 and a half hours, 6 in the morning till 6:30 in the evening. We get a call about 6 in the evening when I'm ready to go home of a man over the rail. So I tell my boss, hey boss, there's a guy over the rail. I'm going to go down and make sure the officers are okay with it. He wants to go with me. This should set an example right now. Don't tell your boss what you're doing, just do your job. Because you don't want your boss going to the So he wants to go with me. I ride a motorcycle. Not a bicycle. Motorcycle. Bicycles are JB, right? I can't take my bike now. I gotta take him down. We gotta put everything in the car, go down there. We get down there, we park like the patrol car here, we block the lane. I get out, there's already an officer talking to the man over the rail. I walk up and I touch the officer, just to let him know I'm there. Let him know the boss is here. And then I start to walk away. But the guy that's over the rail turns and looks at me. And he goes, "You're the negotiator, aren't you?" "No, sir. Just here to help out with whatever we can." "It's not my job now. It's this officer's job." I start walking away again. He engages me again. And he goes, "You have 3 master's degrees, don't you?" And that's probably the funniest joke of the whole night, because I don't. I'm lucky to be sitting in a car. I can walk out of college, that's about it. So, the officer sees this. I know what's going on. This guy engaged me. We have sort of a connection now for whatever that is. So the officer goes, whoosh, gets out of the way. Very smart on his part. I was angry because now it's on me and I got my boss watching me, right? So I engage this individual. He is under the influence of alcohol, very obvious. He's mad at the world. He's going back and forth with his emotions up and down, up and down. I try to extend the time out. High emotions, low rational thought. My job is to use those active listening skills to extend that time out as far as we can to get this guy to mellow out where we can get a change in behavior. I can't find anything kind of a hook to be with this guy. He doesn't, any family members, they don't like anybody. He was in the Army. I was in the Army. We chatted about that for a bit. That really didn't go all that well because, according to him, he was in some top secret squirrel thing. Yeah, sure, buddy. I kind of tested him a little bit. No, you weren't. But anyway, we'll talk about it. Sure, the Army, yeah, it was a blast. Commonalities create comfort, whatever you're talking about. So we had that in common. Things weren't going very well. And I tell my boss, "Yeah, you might want to step back, because if this guy goes and you watch this, this is going to be what's in your mind forever. You won't forget it, and it'll haunt you." He says, "No, I'm going to stay right here." Okay. I wanted to give this gentleman a break. So, what I do with a lot of folks is, I'm going to give you some time to think about what we've been talking about. I'm going to step back, but I'm only going to do so if you promise me not to do anything until I come back up here. He goes, "Okay, all right." I stepped back just for a couple minutes, let him think about this, and he kept turning around and looking back at the water, which isn't good. I tell my boss, "Man, I want to stay here. I get the tunnel again." He goes, "No, I'm coming up with you." All right. We go back up, I re-engage him, and he's mad still. That alcohol is really affecting him. Hard to break through the barriers with him. He gets to a point to where he's holding on to the cables. He puts a foot out, he's looking down at the water, and he starts this very heavy, labored breathing, going, just very labored like this. To me, that's a countdown. So I had learned a technique, and this is where you try this technique. So I did this, as loud as I could, and it worked. He turned around, he was madder than hell at me, but I got him out of that sequence, what I thought was that countdown. So I re-engaged him, we talked for a while, found out there was a family member that he did like, and instead of saying, "How could you do this to that individual?" it was more like, "How do you think you're going to feel?" Kind of a guilt trip on him a little bit. And it worked. He did eventually come back over, and we take him to a local hospital for help. So it all worked out very well. I get back in the car, but it's about that connection. I don't care who it is. It doesn't have to be me. I don't care who it is. But somebody needs to make that connection. Get back in the car. We start driving back to the office. And my boss goes, "You know, that was really cool. That was really neat, what you did." He goes, "But," and that, I tell people, CHP management, California Highway Patrol, they're taught that in management school. Your officer never did anything completely right. It's always, "Good job, but," "All right, I bid on it. What happened?" He goes, "Well, when that guy was holding onto that cable, he wasn't gripping it like this. He was holding on with a flat hand. And when you yelled and clapped, his whole hand shook, and he almost fell off." Good enough. When I initially search someone, officer safety-wise always, after that, I'm looking at their face. Dead on. I want them to look in my face. I look bad at me. I want to get that connection face to face. I don't see they're trying to remember what they're wearing. It's sad, it's bad, bad memory, but I want that connection. He goes, but you know what really bothered me? He goes, you didn't tell me you were going to do this. When you clapped and yelled, he goes, you scared the hell out of me. Good, good. Then don't come down here anymore. Let us do our job. I like this photo a lot, and it depicts a lot if you dig deep into it. Little kid having a great time, kayak on the water. What we don't see is like us on the water. We don't see what's beneath. We don't see what's inside this young man. Just a few years later, a little bit older, 13 years old, this is my boy. And for first responders, cops, firemen, those in the medical field, give a lot. A lot of us, we fail to keep our own health a lot of times. We fail to see what's going on with our family. I have this opportunity now to fly all around. I do 45 to 50, 55 presentations a year and a few out of country every year. So on one of my occasions, I fly back and I live about an hour north of San Francisco. So I land in San Francisco, turn on my cell phone, and there's a message on there from his little brother, 2 years younger, little Travis. And I thought it was going to be, I'm divorced. I thought it was going to be Travis going, hey Dad, welcome home, stop by our house on the way up to yours. But it wasn't. It was little Travis going, Dad, you need to get here quick. Kevin's broken iPad. He's in the backyard and he says he's going to kill himself. A lot of drama there, all right. It's about an hour from the airport, working my way up, and I get some text from little Travis. You may have looked at them, you're not supposed to. You might have, I don't know. It may have said, Dad, you need to get here quick, but when you do say nice things, think of it, be nice. This is from a little 11-year-old. That was pretty cute. Get to the house, and in the living room, there's my ex. My sister lives there, little Travis, and in the backyard, in the complete darkness, is baby boy. He doesn't like that name either. Is baby boy, Kevin Jr. And he's pacing like this, looking down, a few steps this way, a few steps this way. Really odd. Okay? Watch him for just a little bit. And I go out there and put my hand on his shoulder. What's going on, baby boy? He completely breaks down crying, scared me. I was like, whoa, what is happening? A lot was going on in his young life. Being divorced, I never explained my divorce to him. He thought he was the cause of it. Absolutely not. I was ashamed and embarrassed about it. I didn't talk about it. He plays sports. He's heavy into soccer. Some of the kids in school started doing drugs, marijuana and stuff. And we're, hey, why don't you try this? Why don't you try this out? He knows how I feel about it. And he doesn't want to do it. There's that pressure. I didn't think I was giving him pressure for good grades. He's about a 3.7, 3.8, something like that. And we were sitting in the backyard in the dark this whole time for a long time. He goes, yeah, Dad, you are. Wow, I learned a lot. Okay, I am. If you say I am, then I am. Easy as that. So we sat back in the backyard just talking for the longest time. Got through the night, and we decided to go to a counselor. On the day of the appointment, I took him. He and I just go to the counselor. Get to the office, and I asked him, babe, what, do you want me in the room with you? Yeah, Dad. I asked the counselor, sir, can I come in the room? Oh, yes, sir, come on in. Okay. I tell him what I did with the patrol and what I do now in case there's some suicide ideation. He goes, oh, thank you for telling me. So, when we get in the room, here's the barrier. I love barriers. Here's the barrier, his desk. He's sitting there, baby boy's here facing him, and I'm right here on the I looking this way. I don't say a thing, it's these two. So he starts asking him a lot of generic questions. Do you feel safe at home? Is anybody hurting you? Are your parents beating on you? And all these just generic questions. What do you like about each person and that? And baby boy's being very truthful, answering his question. It's really neat to see him being truthful on all this and just, wow, nice, good job. It's some painful stuff, but good. And he digs into him a little more. He goes, if you were gone, don't you think your parents would be upset? And he says, maybe 5, 6, 7 years, and then they'd be okay. Very strange. I found out later that at that age, that's about as far as they see into the future. So when we talk about kids who come up to that bridge, whoosh, right over, because that's as far as they see in the future, not very far. Continues on, and he asks him some more generic questions, and then he goes, have you ever cut yourself on purpose? I know what this is, a gut cutter. And how about the answer for him? But he does this, like he stuck himself and ripped it on his wrist. Cutters, non-surgical self-injury, non-suicidal self-injury, whichever you want to take it. They do it for a variety of reasons. Some of it emotional. They have a hard time controlling their emotions. They have a hard time talking about it. It releases endorphins to cover the pain that they're in. A whole number of reasons why they do it. I was so shocked. I started to tear up. I had to look away. I go, my own boy, a cutter in front of me? I mean, I do this for a living. I travel around. It's happening in front of me. How can this be happening? I'm failing miserably here. This poor kid is suffering. And he talks to me for a while more behind this lovely barrier. And then he does this. You're not going to commit suicide, right? What a crappy way of asking that question. How about coming out from behind that barrier, being there with this little kid? You know what? It sounds like you're going through a lot. Normalize what you want to say, what's going on with him. You know what? Man, with all that going on, some people might be thinking about killing themselves. Have you been having thoughts of killing yourself? Let him answer it. You answered it for him. You're not going to commit suicide, right? What a crappy way of asking that question. It gets better, or worse. He looks at me. He goes, did I cover all the bases? Dude, I don't know. You got all the diplomas? I don't know. I was angry, to say the least. Only because I've done this a lot and I had some training. We talked afterwards. And he didn't really allude to it too much, but I think he didn't want to hear the word yes. So, I learned a lot. I think that counselor learned a lot. We stayed with that individual, kept him in group therapy for a while, and he's doing much, much better. But, did I feel like a failure? Did I learn a lot as an adult? Here I am, I'm 54 now, still learning each and every day. Wow. The worst thing that can happen as a parent is to lose a child. The worst. Whatever happens to them, just let it happen to me. I don't care what it is. It is the worst thing. You may have bad days with your parents, but not like that. So we were very, very lucky. He's doing much, much better. We have some in-depth talks. He's still really into his soccer. I have him on weekends. My weekends are driving all over hell. All of them. He actually got invited to go to China in July. There's one team from the U.S. going to China to play soccer, and he got invited to be on it, so it's pretty neat. But he's doing much better. We could have lost him. So, even though all the training and everything that I had, I'm so focused on going out and talking to folks, I'm missing what's going on with my own family. We need to dig deeper into ourselves and our own families. We really do.
My father died when I was 9. He was in the army. He wasn't home very much. 2 weeks before he died, he told me that in the Korean War, it felt like he lost his soul. All this time I thought it was me. I've moved 7 times in the last year. I've had several jobs. Nothing seemed to fit. I don't seem to fit.
And when your father died, how did that make you feel?
I don't know, I was 9. It was like there was this distinction suddenly between you and the rest of the world. I looked around me. Life went on just like it did before. But it wasn't like it was before. My uncle helped, he would visit. He at least listened. And I thought, if I could light my own farts, I could fly to the moon, or at least Uranus. But if I couldn't do that, at least I could use my penis as a pogo stick, and that might be a way of getting around.
What's that? Yes, that's good. Yes, well, I think you're making fine progress, Hunter. We'll talk later in group.
Thank you.
So he knew about everything wrong. I think this is an extreme example, of course. Most doctors are very, very good. I get to speak with a lot now, and it's interesting. You know, that's a tough job. But this individual behind the barrier, not even looking at Robin Williams, no eye contact, making his coffee or tea or whatever he's doing, behind the barrier, it's just, he's doing everything wrong. Calling him by his last name. We try to call folks by their first name. We want to personalize everything. And that helps a lot. 2015, almost every single year with suicides, it's kind of the same thing, the way that it's completed. Firearms, suffocation, and poisoning are the big three. I want to share with you something though. 2015, over 15,000 homicides in this country. I'm a traffic cop. Over 38,000 traffic accident fatalities in this country. Now look at this. 2015, over 44,000 lives lost to suicide. Where are we spending more of our money at as society? Traffic, right? Recalls on all the cars, all the safety features on things going out there. A lot more money is being spent on that than for mental health. So we as a society have a long ways to go. We really do. Some of the myths associated with suicide. It occurs without warning. 80 to 90% of the time there is something that they did. Generally it's writing or talking about it. 80 to 90% of the time. We just miss the signs. We're not knowing what to look for. Creatures of habit, they get out of that. What's their behavior going on? They used to come out and be outside all the time. Now they're in their room. They don't want to come out. They don't feel like doing anything. They're sleeping a lot more. They're sleeping a lot more because they're in pain. Or they're starting to use drugs or increased alcohol. Don't talk about it, you'll plant the idea. Absolutely false. If someone has been thinking about suicide, they've been thinking about it for a while. Absolutely false. Suicides increase during the holidays. There's more depression a lot of times during the holidays, seasonal affective disorder and such. But no, there's not more suicides during the holidays. There's more actually in the spring, which is strange. There's some phenomena about that. But there's more actually in the spring than the holidays. A suicide in the family will not lead to others. Absolutely wrong. It can, especially when it comes to a child. A suicide in the family can and does lead to others in many, many cases. What I see up on the bridge almost every single time I deal with someone, 99% of the time when I talk to someone that's over that rail, they're suffering from a mental illness. They've stopped taking their medication. If they were prescribed the medication for mental illness, they've stopped it about a month prior. And they feel as if they're a burden to their family. But when I ask them, have you talked to your family about this? No, they haven't. These three I see all the time. Some of the causes of mental illness: nutrition, lack of nutrition, really big. Exposure to toxins like lead. Environmental, forced life changes, the death in a family, loss of a job, loss of a child, all sorts of things. Moving out, being on your own for the first time. All the stress that builds up. A lot of different environmental factors, things that we don't have a lot of control over. Substance abuse, long-term, has been linked to paranoia and depression. Traumatic brain injury, we keep hearing about these, especially with football players. And genetics. I lost my grandfather to suicide. Doesn't mean that I would be suicidal, but it means I may be more susceptible to different events that happen in my life. I'm huge on setting the example for things. I want to tell you a little bit about me so you understand why I'm standing here and why I do what I do now. Right out of high school, 2 months after that, I went into the Army, into the Airborne Infantry in 1981. And after a year, I went over to Germany. When I was in Germany in 1983, I was diagnosed with cancer, testicular cancer. I had my first operation in Germany, and then they sent me back to San Francisco to Letterman Army Medical Center, where I had 2 more operations, one being a lymphadenectomy, where they split you here all the way down, and they take out lymph nodes. They took out over 40 of mine, and over 30 of them were cancerous, so it had spread. So I did that. Of course, course, the operation here, and then two others, and then months of chemotherapy. Went down to about 130 pounds, lost all my hair, tough time, but every time I would go through a cycle, my tumor marker would go way down. So it was working. I was very, very lucky. But it takes a big toll on you too. If you've ever been around someone who has cancer and is going through this. I did not do radiation, I did the chemotherapy, which is the drugs. And they gave me lithium. The Army likes to test things. So I said, I don't care, I don't even know what I'm doing. So yeah, sure, it's supposed to raise your red blood cell count, I believe. But what happens with lithium is, for one, with chemo, you're not hungry. You don't get really hungry. With lithium, your hands shake. So if I didn't get hungry, and I was holding them, whatever I was holding, my hands were shaking so bad, it was really tough. It was a really tough time. We got through it. Started working for my father. He had a business in San Francisco, a printing business. And then I got hired on to corrections, state corrections. I was working at San Quentin. And in 1989, my mother developed cancer from smoking. She was bedridden for a very long time. And she died at the age of 49, which I used to think was old. Believe me, it's not. She died right at home in front of us, 5 closed her eyes. We talk about environmental factors. That's a huge one right there, losing a parent. I rode a motorcycle for the Highway Patrol. In Marin, we have a lot of unincorporated area. It goes way out to the beach. On one of the days I was doing an overtime detail, I was coming back, very rural road, 1 lane each direction, and I was following behind some cars. Another motorcyclist came towards us, went over double yellows around a turn, just missed a car ahead of me, and hit me head on. I was no time to react, I barely even saw him. I wake up and I'm in somebody's convertible. They picked me up and put me in. Everything from my duty belt, gone. I was so numb. I didn't know what happened. It was quite a while before help got there because we're way out in the boonies. The radios don't work, cell phones or anything. So finally they get there. The help gets their paramedics and their officers. They get me, take me out to a field, and paramedics love to cut off clothes, right? We got a lot of ego with the motor cops, and our uniforms are very expensive. I do remember telling them, don't cut the boots. The boots that we wear all the way up to here, which I hate so much, and they didn't. So imagine this just ever so briefly. I'm in my underwear and these big old boots up to here, that close to San Francisco. Now, they won't tell me what's wrong with me. Am I missing the leg? What's got that? I don't know, I was completely numb, completely out of it. I hear a chopper coming in, and if the helicopter's coming, somebody's messed up. You know, they don't bring the helicopter out for nothing. They wouldn't tell me anything. Helicopter comes down and land, and all the guys jump up and go, oh man, wow, you're so lucky. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I knew the sheriff's department had a new helicopter. That's what they're talking about. Nope. It was this very good-looking blonde paramedic that came out. I said, yeah, I'm lucky. I'll trade you anytime. I couldn't even see hardly. So I don't even remember. But I go to the hospital, I'm off for 3 months, a couple operations and things. That traumatic brain injury, another factor. I promoted the rank of sergeant in 2008. Went down to where I started with our patrol in Hayward, just south of Oakland, California. A lot of gangs, a lot of violence, a lot of good people, but a lot of stuff happens there. While I was there, I started getting these feelings. I thought it was acid reflux. And I had a pain going down my left arm into my thumb, but it wasn't the whole arm. Just a little piece, like 1/4 inch. And then this acid reflux. And when I went to bed at night and laid down, it got worse. I didn't put these together. You know, this little bitty pain. I thought I was heavy in the body, and I thought I'm just overtraining. 3 days of this, hardly sleeping because of this, I thought acid reflux. Go to the doctor's office, and they do an EKG, which comes back fine. Everything's good. But they do the blood work, thank God, because then the blood work comes back very poor. Your heart exudes an enzyme when it's having trouble, and my enzyme level was way high. So they sucked me in. I was there for 6 days. Heart surgery, I got 3 stents in my heart, and I'm only having 48, 47, something like that. So all these different things going on. So this is how things started with me, with depression. And in law enforcement, a lot of us unfortunately get a divorce. This happened to me. During that time, my wife, now ex-wife, she's from Japan. My boys are half Japanese. She wrote a suicide note to each of my boys and was looking up on the computer how to load a gun. So whenever I wanted to stop by, what am I rolling into? I had no idea. So it was extremely taxing. I found that I could go to work and functioned 100%. I'm fine. When I went home, I didn't want to do a thing. I could sit on the couch for days. I didn't want to walk the dog, see the kids, do clothes, go to the grocery store. I mean, nothing. I could sit there and not move for days. But at work, I'm 100%. I'm ready to roll. Very, very strange. And I suffered like this for a long time. I didn't put it together. A little slow. Finally, a day, routine checkup with my doctor. I say, hey, doc, something's going on. I'm not getting anything done. I don't know what's happening with me. He says, here, take this little test. If you've ever heard of it, the PHQ-9, Personal Health Questionnaire 9, just 9 questions. And as I did in high school, I flunked this one pretty good. Doctor walks in the room, he goes, Kevin, you have depression. How do you feel about that? I get doctors with the best bedside manner, I gotta tell you. How do you think I feel about this? All this nonsense, and now depression on top of it? So as of this point,